Wake up. I'm your host, Leisha Bell, co-founder of BLXBC, an angel syndicate run by Black and Latinx women who are on a mission to represent ourselves and claim our seats on cap tables. Stay tuned. You feel me?
Hi, my name is Monica Pool Knox. I'm the CEO and general partner of Good Trouble Ventures. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and for fun, I enjoy Latin music and salsa dancing.
If Pay Me in Equity was a person, it would look like Leisha Bell. The queen of deal flow and dishing venture dollars is known in part for the brains behind the $535 million PayPal fund that was generously distributed to the Black and Brown owned businesses subsequent to the George Floyd hearings. Her extensive background as a capital allocator, aka Tech Money Spenderella, includes Pipeline Angels, BLXVC, Black Girl Ventures, Pharrell's Black Ambition Fund, and Women of Color Capital Collective. And that's just a snippet of what she brings to her current role as a change maker for PayPal Ventures. Leisha Bell is the co-founder of BLXVC, an angel syndicate of moms mobilizing money for Black and Brown women entrepreneurs. She is the prior deal flow lead for Pipeline Angels, a network of women and femmes. And currently, she leads the Economic Opportunity Fund at PayPal Ventures. For more details, go to www.leishabell.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sisters with Ventures. I'm your host, Leisha Bell, and I have a very special guest today, Monica Pool Knox. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, I'm happy to have you on the show. We're connected through a dear friend of mine who's also one of your co-partners, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But I know you've been in the Valley for a while doing amazing things. So why don't you tell folks a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm originally from the Bay Area. I grew up here, but left to go to grad school in Texas. So a lot of people think I'm from Texas, but I'm actually from Northern California. I spent the early part of my career in tech. So I actually started out in telecommunications, but then ventured into entertainment and tech. And so more recently, I've worked with companies like Sony and CBS Interactive, Twitter, not X, Twitter before it was X, Microsoft, and then decided to go smaller tech and then took on a couple of roles at two publicly traded tech companies in AI and cloud as a chief people officer. And so kind of after, I'd done the whole tech thing and had a number of roles. And by the way, my background is primarily in talent, people, cultures. I think I've done every role there is in human resources, including labor relations, which, I never thought I'd be, needing to think about, quite frankly, in tech. That's been proven wrong, I guess, with Amazon and other companies more recently. But
Right.
I decided to take a pivot and I started advising startups. I really loved business. And so I wanted to get more engaged at the earlier stages of companies because I had been at these large companies and I had said to myself, wow, what was the genesis of this? Whatever we might have been dealing with. And so my interest was getting into earlier stage companies. I started advising. I then started working with venture funds and advising them as well. And then it kind of evolved into actually me working at a venture fund, which is what I do today.
Great. So let's back up a bit, and we'll get to your VC hat now. But what were some of the observations that you had while working in tech at some of these notorious companies, especially around people and culture?
Mm. Well, I'll tell you what, having a background in talent, culture, people, and again, I think I've worked in every single role within HR, was really a front row seat to so many of the things that people would read about. People would ask me often, like, what's it like working at Twitter? What's it like working at Microsoft? And so I've had a lot of opportunities to share so many stories, and I will tell you that one day, Leisha, I'm going to write a book because there's no way I could make this stuff up. It's been a wild ride, but a lot of fun. I would say that I've worked with folks who are very young. I mean, it's a spectrum, right? Starting out like people very young, very smart, uh, wanting to rise through the corporate ladder, ambitious, but no experience, and so the mistakes that they make along the way are just, like I said, you just can't make those things up. To the other side of the spectrum of people being thoughtful, seasoned, so smart, ethical, and again, everyone in between. I work with folks from around the world, from India to Japan to China to Latin America, and of course all parts of Europe. And what I would say is, I think people do come into the space, they really do want to do a good job. Um, but then what tends to happen is, again, I'm talking about the things you hear about, the stories you read about. There's this intention kind of to please others around them. And so that's sometimes where you end up with bad decisions because, people have suggested all kinds of things. And as a talent and people leader, I'm in the seat to say, here, let me walk you through what that movie looks like. You probably don't want to do this because you'll have this type of outcome. And is that what you really want? And generally they're like, no. But if you don't have anyone in the room, then
Right.
you can't really have that dialogue. And you also have to have the courage to step up and challenge, very powerful people. But if you take it from the adage of people really do want to do a good job, they don't want to create messes. They want to be looked at as the hero. I mean, that's kind of innately people want to add value and be looked at positively. Then you have to take a creative approach when you're making decisions that will impact people, their careers, particularly women, Black women, Hispanic women, people of color, those who are underrepresented or potentially marginalized, and steer people in the right direction. Generally, that works. There's certainly exceptions to that, but that's been my observation.
Got it. So, how did you decide that you want to get into VC?
Hmm. Well, if I'm being 100% truthful, I would tell you that I feel like VC decided on me. I didn't really decide to VC
You
because it,
chose it.
I feel like I was chosen because I don't know that when I left my last kind of corporate gig that I wasn't thinking about, oh, I want to get into VC.
Right.
I was more so focused on what do I want to do? What is the what am I passionate about? Where do I want to spend my time? And so it really started out with how can I be helpful to earlier stage companies? Because remember when I left my corporate role, I had just finished up working at a couple of earlier stage companies. I mean, they weren't early stage, but they were, definitely earlier than a Microsoft. And so no, seeing what great could look like down the road 45 years in, and then seeing what challenges companies had that were 10, 15, 20 years old, then it was like, okay, how do I help earlier stage companies avoid some of the pitfalls that I'm seeing? And I was getting, people were inviting me to join their advisory boards, and I also got into investing. And so I started really getting into detailed economics of a business and being able to advise them on their just business strategy overall. I started out with HR tech because that's a space I know really well, but then it evolved into financial services and some other sectors. I sit on the board of a healthcare organization. It's actually it's the $3 billion healthcare organization. It's been around for hundreds of, like 100 years. So I had that perspective as well. And I would say that the VC thing came just, I was sitting on the board of a company I was working with. And one of the investors in that company was in VC. And he said, hey, I really enjoy working with you. And I'd love to have someone with your skill set in my venture fund. And so I said, oh, okay. What would I do? He said, well, help us learn about how to do due diligence and assess companies from a talent perspective, because that's why they don't work out. Generally, it's, due to talent. I said, well, I can do that. And so that was my foray in. And when I started working with them, I thought I was like, wow, I'm adding a lot of value here. And it wasn't really things that were difficult for me. It was just, I was drawing from all of the different experiences that I had. And I said, oh, wow, I guess I can add some value
Right.
on something I know in a space that I didn't know. And that was really the path that then led me squarely into venture.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So why don't you tell us about your fund and its thesis?
Yeah, sure. So again, my fund is called Good Trouble Ventures. We invest at the intersection of tech, again, space I know really well, and entertainment. I shared with you some of the companies that I worked with in entertainment, but the way we define it is music, film, television, gaming, sports, and the creator economy. My two other general partners have backgrounds in tech as well. One of my partners stood up Burning Man from its inception to the big kind of brand it is today. She's also a performer, and you can find her album on Spotify, and she toured the world singing with a group. Has a beautiful voice. I have another partner who worked at Google X and is very instrumental in launching some brands like Waymo and others that we now know are household names. So she worked, deeply with startups in a company like Google. So, she's also an author, award-winning children's book author. So we all have this kind of tech bent with a thread of people, talent, and culture. And we come at this investing from maybe a different perspective. I have a son I didn't share with you. I have three sons. My youngest, he's 18, and he just started college this past fall. He's in a college in the Pacific Northwest, but he got a full scholarship to play football. And so I have been deep in this world of elite sports. I will tell you that Division One and professional are very much intertwined. It's a very small community and it's very dramatic. If anyone follows sports out there, from the transfer portal to name, image, and likeness, or NIL,
Oh, yes.
it's just a lot. And he does want to go to the NFL. So, he trains with professionals. And so point I'm making is, as a mother, I'm kind of deep in this space as an advisor for an elite athlete, and probably six of his other friends that I've known since, elementary school. They're all now big football players. And so again, each of us has a kind of a deep level of expertise in one of those sections or verticals of entertainment. One of the things that we do is start with looking at what we call troublemaker mindsets. And look, we believe that founders from all walks of life, regardless of how old they are, what they look like, whatever, whatever their backgrounds might be, talent is distributed equally. That's what we know as talent leaders. And so when we find a good idea, we're going to give a founder that shot. And a lot of times what they say to us is, I'm so glad to talk with you because I'm getting shut down. I'm not being able to get the funding. I'm not getting the audience. And we're giving them access and opportunity through the fund. And that's been really fun to see. We also have a coalition of a number of folks who are deep into entertainment. They may be film producers, music producers. We have Grammy award-winning music producers, folks that are CMOs or even CFOs in the more traditional corporate sense. And we leverage those folks as well as folks who've started venture funds themselves to help us in the fund management as well as with our potential portcos.
Hello, my name is Zora, and I will be telling you guys about my mom's new merch shop. Go to LishaBell.com. Thank you.
So let's do a deep dive on entertainment, because that's typically, you don't hear entertainment and VC in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Talk about your focus in entertainment and give us some examples of things you find exciting.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons that we created our thesis is some of the things that we were seeing out there. For example, if you think about culture, right? If you think about the latest terms and sayings, and I remember saying to my son, like, well, let's low key mean, like he was using all these terms. I'd have to get him to like translate. I was on my urban dictionary. What is he talking about? And then if you think about fashion and the things that people are doing and the things that people spend their time with, what's considered cool, that all comes through typically culture and that's what we consider culture. And then what influences culture, right? It's typically it's music, it's creative elements that influence culture, and it's typically urban culture that's considered cool, right?
Right.
And so if you think about what influences culture, that being that creative side, and then you shift over to what influences economic opportunity. I mean, think about the economic opportunity that platforms like TikTok or Google or Microsoft have opened up, right? Think about, if some folks can remember the world before those companies, or Facebook, and I could name many, many others. I'm just naming ones that your listeners probably would be familiar with. It's driving economic opportunity. So our thesis was really built with this perspective of, how about if we collide culture, what drives culture, with what drives economic opportunity? And we really feel that we're at an important inflection point because of the democratization of artificial intelligence. I've been working with AI since 2016, but now it's democratized. Everybody has access to it. So
Right.
what's happening is some super cool, creative things that we can do with technology. A lot of entertainers that we talk to, they're very fearful of the tech because they think, oh, it can look like me or sound like me, it could replace me. And then the tech people, nerdy tech people,
Right.
they don't know any, they're trying to be cool, but they're not really cool. They don't really know the entertainment side. And so we bridge the gap. So some of the companies that we have found doing this are so cool. We found companies, there's a female founder who's driving some interesting innovations with anime. And anime is very popular in a lot of Asian countries. And so her focus is to really bring that to the US with proprietary IP. Another company we really like is a company that has created IP around how to how to make a video game out of any video. And you could be, videoing your dog jumping into a pile of leaves, and they have this technology that allows you to gamify it in a snackable way. I don't know
Mm.
about you, but my mom, she's 84, and she loves playing video games on her phone. And I'm like asking her, Mom, what are you doing? Because it looks like she's in such deep thought. She's like, I'm playing whatever, Candy Crush or whatever. But she enjoys that. My
Yeah.
son and his friends do the same thing. So I think there's a huge market for that. I could go on and on and on, Leisha, but I could talk about music. I'm going to give you one last example.
Yeah.
We made a very cool product by bringing together folks in our coalition. We took a skeptic who's now one of our creators in residence. He's actually a Grammy award-winning music composer, uh, arranger, producer. He has produced the likes of folks like Christina Aguilera, all the boy bands, the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, all those folks, Babyface, and um, we turned him into a believer. What we did is we created a digital twin of his producing style using AI. So,
Wow.
so think about how a person might direct a film, right? We might see a Spike Lee film or a James Cameron film, and a lot of times we'll know, oh, that's this film producer, right? Well, the music is the same way. He has a particular style and pattern in which he produces these hits over and over and over again, right? Think about Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. We can think of a lot of people like
Right.
that.
Right.
So we produced a product, and we partnered with Google that allowed for any person creating any kind of track in their garage to have this person's name is Rob Lewis in their studio, in their garage, creating their tracks with him, because his approach to producing music now they have access to, even though they may never meet. And
Wow.
so again, we were able to take somebody who is a skeptic and create a believer out of him by creating his digital producer twin.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, it's expanding access. And you didn't mention your friend's name, but I'll mention it. It's called Good Trouble. And why Good Trouble? What kind of good trouble are you trying to make?
Well, what we're trying to do, a few things. We're trying to give folks who are coming up with brilliant ideas, founders, folks who are joining those teams, co-founders, early leaders who are really putting their life and their passion into building a particular product or solution in the world. We're trying to give them wings, essentially. As I shared with you, a lot of the folks we come across, they may be very, very young. Some folks are more seasoned more seasoned kind of towards the end of their career, what we traditionally think.
Right.
We meet with women. We meet with folks who are multicultural. I mean, there's so many people that we've met through this process, and to be able to give them access to the economics that allow their companies to fly, and for them to then be able to express what they have felt that they have been deposited in terms of their talent and their problem solving, to do good in the world. That's what we're able to do. Look, if it was just for me about making money somewhere, maybe I wouldn't be in venture. I mean, you certainly can make money in venture, but my objective in coming into this business was more so to help folks with great ideas elevate their business and release into the world really what they feel that they were meant to release. Let me add one more thing. I think, I'll add one more thing. Our coalition is very powerful, and just the people that we've been able to bring together has been, quite frankly, life-changing for me. I mean, just some of the salt of the earth people who've done such amazing things in their career, all coming together for this very common purpose. Definitely feel that all oars are in the water and we're rowing in the same direction. And that feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah. That synergy must be extremely powerful. I love it.
For sure.
Let's talk about angel. Do you have a different hat for when you're angel investing versus when you have your GP hat on?
When I'm angel investing, and I have quite a few investments personally, we have, folks who have invested in our business. I guess we call them more so LPs. But for when I'm angel investing, I definitely look first at the founder, because we all know that a brilliant idea with a founder that can't bring it to life means that idea will die, because we've seen that many times. We've also seen the reverse, where an okay idea with a brilliant founder and team can bring something to life in a really powerful way. So I do spend a lot of time really understanding the psyche of the founder. And being a talent leader for many years, it's very quick. In fact, I would say even with my other two GPs, it's a little scary how quickly we sum up people, people we trust or we don't trust, because you've been doing it for so long in an environment like tech. It's just something innate. So I start off with the founder. I also start off with their vision. What are you trying to do? Because people oftentimes, which I think is smart, may start small on something, but they actually have a big vision or an impactful vision for what they want to do. So I'll go there. I also like to learn about their unique IP. What's their moat? I'm always asking that question. How do they protect what, they've created?
Right.
And then, of course, we look at the financial models. I think, that's obviously a big part of it, to see if they're being responsible with the financial models. Does it make sense? And how can I be helpful?
That's great. That's great. So our time always goes by fast here. But we always like to end with, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, wow.
Monica.
I would probably tell younger Monica that every experience that you have builds on to what you're going to need down the road. Nothing is wasted. So that disappointment, that, frustrating conversation, you didn't get that promotion, or you didn't get that job, or you're in a situation that you would prefer not to be in for whatever reason, or even that you got that promotion or you got that amazing opportunity, just know that it's for something greater and that nothing is wasted. So
Mm.
lean into it, bloom where you're planted, and have belief and faith that God will bring it all together in this cool kind of stew that
Yeah.
you'll understand later and you'll appreciate it later.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you. How can folks get in contact with you?
Wow. Well, so folks can go to Good Trouble. What is it? goodtrouble.vc to get, information about our fund. We are in the process of fundraising. I didn't share it's a $50 million fund. So we're in the process of fundraising. That's going pretty well. So if folks want to contact us about that, or they want to contact us about partnerships in some kind of way, LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can find me, Monica Pool Knox. And there's also a an email address that we take in incoming for whatever reason. It's hello@goodtrouble.vc.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure connecting with you and learning about your investment thesis at Good Trouble VC and all the good trouble you're stirring up. And I wish you a whole lot of more good trouble for you and your fun.
Well, thank you, Alicia. I appreciate it.
All right, good to talk to you.
Okay, likewise. Take care.
Hey, it's your girl, Alicia Bell. Thank you for listening to Sisters with Ventures, where we amplify women of color in the venture capital ecosystem. We are on all streaming platforms available: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, you name it, we're there.